Okay, you know what, Punk? You finally did it. You did something that Vince hasn't been able to do in I don't know how many years. You convinced me to actually buy a pay-per-view beyond one of the big four. Normally for a pay-per-view I'd go to like a Buffalo Wild Wings or like a Hooters or someplace that would show it. I wouldn't actually try to get it and pay the full price for it. I'd go someplace else and pay for food and then see it. But after this Raw, I've entirely resigned to the fact that I want to see Punk's last match. This Raw began with CM Punk cutting a phenomenal promo. Not as good as the initial, post-Raw tirade, but a phenomenal promo nevertheless. And then John Cena came down, they sparred back and forth a little bit, which then led to John Cena having a handicap match against the tag team of McGillicuddy and Otunga. Knowing that John Cena's beaten Nexus when it was like 7 members, beating McGillicuddy and Otunga, not a big deal. And of course, he wins because he's John Cena, that's what John Cena does. The match between Brie or Melina and Kelly Kelly, which was precursor to the Brie, Bella, Kelly Kelly. First, the Bellas say Karma's fat. Then they say Kelly Kelly's under all this pancake makeup and she's anorexic, she's malnourished. Meh. I'm wearing a shirt with Shimmer, which is actual female athletes, and they're actual legitimate professional wrestlers. They're the sister company to Ring of Honor. If I want to see women wrestle, I will go to a Shimmer event. What Vince does with his Divas division is by far one of the biggest travesties to women's wrestling I've ever seen. I really could care less about who's going to win the Divas Championship belt. I'm glad there's no longer Women's Championship belt. I'm glad they just call it Divas. They got it over with. These aren't professional athletes. This is Women's Championship. This is a Divas belt. And I really could care less about what's going to go on with that. I really couldn't. It's... They hyped up more of a Big Show versus Mark Henry. Mark Henry is a heel. He's got some traction going for him, and it's going to be interesting. So, of course, Mark Henry takes on the team of Drew McIntyre and Dolph Ziggler, who backstage were making fun of Vince McMahon and saying that he had bad breath. Dolph gets chopped off the apron, and then McIntyre just gets the living crap beat out of him, which almost led to him getting chokeslammed off of the stage. But as Show had him up, Show gets tackled by Henry. So you get to see Henry and Show fall into a pile of boxes with a black tarp, and you don't even see McIntyre. So we're thinking McIntyre, who was like up in the air when it happened, probably got thrown quite a few feet away from where everyone else was at. Okay. Alright. A really fantastic promo done with Miz, Swagger, Bourne, Kingston, Del Rio. Riley didn't say anything, he just ran over and chased out the Miz. But they did a really fantastic job getting everybody involved in that match for the Raw Money in the Bank ladder match. Miz came down and said that he is the future, he's going to win this. Swagger came out, talked about how he won Money in the Bank. And Miz looked at him and said, but if you won Money in the Bank and became champion, and no one remembers it, did it really happen? Which actually did a pretty solid 6-man tag match. Oh, I forgot R-Truth. R-Truth, who is arachnophobia, and, well, he's arachnophobic and acrophobic. So he's afraid of heights, which is why it's conspiracy, because of the ladder. He's also afraid of spiders. It came off entirely nonsensical, but this is the current R-Truth. That 6-man match was very, very solid. Of course, the faces won that match. So primarily, this had lots of really phenomenal promo work, which is really great to know going into the pay-per-view that you have just really solid promo work. Because this is what you really want in something like this. You want something kind of like that. You want Del Rio to clear the ring with with a ladder. You want these sorts of moments. You want to really push the pay-per-view. And then I was going to have something I thought was really interesting. They ended with contract negotiation. Not a contract signing. It was more or less CM Punk sparring with Vince McMahon, which was really good. And they got a sick pop when he said he wanted the WWE ice cream bar brought back. In fact, the crowd chanted, "We want ice cream." And it was done really well. He had these over-the-top, demands. Anything short of what they did in the movie Airheads. Then Cena came down, and he sparred with Cena for a while. It got kind of long-winded when he began to compare John Cena with all the other Boston's teams, like the Celtics and the Red Sox and all those sorts of, sports teams that for a long time were underdog and now are franchises and dynasties. He then called John Cena a dynasty, everything he didn't want to be. Which then led, of course, to John Cena punching CM Punk. Punk going all the way with his contract. Going, you know what? At this Sunday, the last time you see John Cena, last time you see that title, the last time you see CM Punk, and tears his contract. I want to see what CM Punk is going to do in this match. I'm actually interested. This is one of those things where, if Punk were to win, stipulation is if Punk leaves Chicago with the title. So very easily you could see CM Punk beat John Cena. Nexus coming down and doing a beatdown on Punk, or John Cena doing a beatdown on Punk. The Money in the Bank winner cashing it in, and then potentially defeating Punk. Or having Punk be the first person to survive a Money in the Bank cash-in. There's lots of really interesting things going on with this. And with that, this was a phenomenal go-home Raw when it comes to going to a pay-per-view like this. They try to keep some of the guys healthy. Everyone who had a match got to have some sort of, build-up for it. And that's what they need for, a big pay-per-view like this, going into one that's actually probably one of the more dangerous ones. And that was the last Raw that we'll probably see CM Punk on. And the go-home Raw for Money in the Bank.